Hi, everybody. This is Wazi Hanska calling
Hello.
in from the beautiful Gesapa of the Black Hills of South Dakota, the ancestral home of the Ocheti Shakowin, that's 7 council fires of the Great Sioux Nation. We're so excited for tonight's call. This is, I really, I was a history teacher for a long time teaching high school history, so I'm always talking in like historical perspective. This is a historical call, one that the time that we're in right now, being virtual and just being here tonight. It's also historic in the sense that the Native Alliance has hosted 2 previous calls, one with our advisory council back in May. And then last month, June, we had school superintendents, state legislators, executives of nonprofits, education leaders to hear their perspective on the COVID-19 impact. But of all of the calls, I think this is going to be the one that we're just really looking forward to, hearing from the most important voices during this time, and it's the students who are being impacted during this pandemic and this historic time. And it's also historic because for the very first time, our National Community Alliance team has collaborated together on a call to be able to co-host the very first Zoom call. And I'm really excited to welcome our brothers and sisters from the Asian American Pacific Islander Coalition and community. And I wanted to introduce my friend, Sukhprita.
Vaidi, everyone. Hello, my name is Sukhprita. I use she, they pronouns, and I am located in Chicago, which is on the unceded land of the Potawatomi, Ojibwe, and Odawa. I newly am leading the Asian American and Pacific Islander Alliances as fresh as of March maybe. Time is escaping me these days, so I apologize if I'm unsure of my timelines, but I am just so grateful for Wazi Hanska inviting us into this space to co-host, and we are so excited to be here to hear from our youth and to also introduce y'all to some of our Asian American Pacific Islander Advisory Council members who will be helping to moderate today's call and share in some of the asking and offerings of the questions today.
Thank you so much. Welcome everybody. As Indigenous people, we are definitely want to be respectful of our protocol and our culture. And so we're so honored tonight to open up and start our call by inviting Mr. John Aroundham. And I'm so excited for John to join us tonight on our call because I actually was very honored and blessed to be one of his high school teachers at Little Wound School. And John and I have stayed connected through all these years. And to be able to see him go out and, graduate from college, from Dartmouth, and be able to go out and get his education, become a classroom teacher has just been an incredible, proud time in my life. And I'm so blessed that he continues to share his life with us. So we'd like to invite John to start us off with an opening prayer and song.
Thank you, Wazi Hanska. And Robert was my teacher in 2000 to 2001. So it's been a long time, and he hasn't changed much. He's still energetic as ever, and doing a lot for the community in terms of education. So he's a mentor towards me, and I was happy to come here and do this for him and for y'all. So I'll be speaking in my language. I'm still trying to master my language, so this is an opportunity for me to practice my language as well. Ea le mitakiapi dona yahipiki yuha chantewashte napet yuzapelo washichu Ia John around him, Imachiapi, Naha Lako Michajiki, Ozuye Chikala, Imachiapilo. Pine Ridge, Imataham, Na Laha, Oklahoma, El Watielo. Good afternoon, my relatives. It's good to see everybody here. My name is John Aroundhim. My Lakota name is Little Warrior or Ozuye Chikala. I'm from Pine Ridge and I'm currently living in Oklahoma. So shout out to all the Oklahoma folks on the call today. Let's go ahead and start off with a prayer. So however you center yourself, let's go ahead and center ourselves. Oh, Tukashla, Lampetikila, Tukashla, Machpiato, Na Wakia, Agli Tukashla, Wopla Chicha Tukashla, Tukashla, Itakipi, Na Kuja Tipi Khpa, COVID-19 Kuja Tipi Khpa, Tukashla, Nish Kuja Tukashla, Wakaja Tukashla, Welcome Chosani Tukashla, Tukashla, Wanspe, Wichakya Tukashla, Welcome Chosani Tukashla, Tukashla, Tiwai Nita Tukashla, Yahi Tukashla, Welcome Chosani Tukashla, Ushila Kapo, Omayan Kapo Tukashla. Great Spirit, we ask that you watch over us today. We thank you for the beautiful day today, at least here in Oklahoma. It's sunny and we just had a thunderstorm, but whatever weather you're having, we're just thankful for those gifts that you bring us. We ask that you continue to watch over all of those who are battling the COVID-19, those in the hospital and those at home, especially those who will be trying to navigate it during the coming school year, our educators, our leaders who are going to navigate this COVID-19 for the coming year. We ask that you watch over them and protect them. We ask that you watch over our families, continue to watch over all of us and have pity on us. At this time, I'd like to share a song, and this song was composed by my father. My father was a spiritual leader and a culture keeper in my community. And in the song, you'll hear the word Nihanka. And Nihanka means behind you. And I always say this during prayers that as leaders, for those of us who are leaders, remember leadership isn't just leading from the front, but it's leading from the back too. It's remembering that the people come first too when we're leading. So I'll share this song at this time. Hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh. Wakataka wane wachielo Moshe malayo heyo heya Tonka shela Nehaka mikelo heyo Hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, Wakataka wane wachielo Oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, Tonkashela Thank you.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Still on mute.
You're still on mute, Wazihanska.
Sorry about that. So I thank you, John, for sharing that call. It's beautiful to hear our languages of our Indigenous people are spoken nowhere else on earth. Thank you for sharing. I'm excited to welcome our panel. We have representation from 6 Indigenous sovereign nations across the country, from Hawaii, Oklahoma, New Mexico, South Dakota. We'd like to welcome our student panelists tonight, Bella Cornell, who is a college sophomore representing her community, not representing, but being here from the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma. We have Jade Onaka, who is Native Hawaiian from the Big Island of Hawaii, who is a high school junior. And we have Persephone Eastman, who is Dakota from the Sisseton Reservation, who just recently graduated from University of South Dakota this past spring. We have Harrison Yazzie from the Navajo Nation, who just recently graduated from Gallup High School. Congratulations, and he's going to be starting his educational journey post-secondary at ASU this coming fall. We have Geronimo Louie, who was Chiricahua Apache, born for the Chiricahua Apache Band, born for the Dene, who's also a 2020 graduate of the University of New Mexico Gallup. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and we'll turn our very first question over to Kristen McCapigal.
Thank you, Wazihanska, and excited to be here and have all of you. First question, I would just love for each of you as panelists to be able to share a little bit about yourself and your school or community.
Halito Sahocha Fa'at, Isabella Aikley Cornell, Chata Ohoyo Himikasia. Hi everyone, my name is Isabella Aikley Cornell, and I am a proud young Chata woman. I'm the firstborn daughter of Sarah Adams Cornell and the granddaughter of Tammy Adams, and I'm very happy to be here today and talk about how it's impacting us as students. And I'm 19 years old, a sophomore at Fort Lewis College, and yes, I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you for allowing us to speak today.
Hi everyone, Yat e Shikedo Shidina She Francis Dronamoli and Adona and Shiniki e Tishinashna Honagami Basis Chi Honagami Basis Chage Richie Dashnala Akut Ego and Neshlan. Hi everyone, my name is Francis Dronamoli. I'm Chiricahua Apache born for the Dene. My father is Honagami. My maternal grandfather is also Honagami. My paternal grandfather is Twitichini. And I'm here as many other panelists talking about COVID-19 and the impacts of both negative and positive for Indigenous students and the universities that we are attending to. So thank you for allowing me to be here. I will be graduating in winter of 2020 from the University of New Mexico. So just a little correction.
Hi everybody, aloha OJ Kleamak Maionako ko ino and no holu aloha mai au o kalan lawa o le loho ko umao makua. So hi everybody, I am Jade Kleamaka Maionaka and I take residency in Kona, Hawaii. And my father is Colin Onaka and my mother is Leiloha Onaka. And I'm also here to talk about COVID-19 and the effects that it's had on my community, let alone within my Indigenous culture. So I'm very happy to speak to other Indigenous culture, especially here in America.
Ja, it's a Harrison Yazi in a ship. And it's Edget Kajin in a slam, Torich ini bashes chin, Torich ini dasache, dope it's acting dashanele, got egos teen a slam, dope tejan that nasha. Hello, my name is Harrison Yazi. My mom's clan, which is charcoal leading into the red, running into the water clan, and my grandpa and my dad's clans are bitter water, and my Nelly on my dad's side, his clan is with the man with his folded arms. I'll be attending ASU in the upcoming fall, and I'll be studying a degree in political science. I am 17 years old. So yeah, it's really nice to meet all of you guys and to have the opportunity to speak upon these issues that affected us, and especially us Indigenous people as well. So yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Persephone Eastman. I'm Tsitsituma, Dakota, and Mandan Arikara. My Dakota name is Hotonkawi. I'm a recent graduate of the University of South Dakota. I'm also here to talk about the impact that COVID-19 had on me as a recent graduate, and the impact on my community. Thank you for giving me the space to talk and be among all of you. Thank you, Wazi Hanska, for reaching out to me and asking if I'll be a part of this space. So thank you for introducing yourself and everyone. And I'm excited to, talk, and thank you.
All right, thank you so much to our panelists for being here. I had a question that I will go ahead and pop into the chat. I'd love to hear from Jade and Persephone and Geronimo and Brittany. What were your thoughts when you first heard your school was closing, and what were your immediate concerns?
I'll go first. When I first heard that my school was closing, I was a bit scared a little, just because we were so new to the pandemic at the time, and we were just like, we didn't it was scary enough, the fact that we didn't know the symptoms of the pandemic and how it affected people or how it could be transferred into people. So a lot of us were having concerns if it was airborne, if it was contact and personal bubbles or whatever. And so it was very scary, because it was like, oh, like this is real, like they're closing the school. One of my main concerns was just like the fact that people needed to be safe, and also their homework needed to be safe. Like their work and their studies needed to be safe too, because we were like almost to the end of our spring semester, and I know a lot of students, including myself, who were working hard to continue on our education and get the semester done, and then move on to the next semester. So it was really concerning about how we were going to go on with no in-person schooling.
Thank you so much. Jade, Persephone, would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, so when, like Geronimo said, like as soon as you first hear that schools are shutting down, it's a really big red flag automatically, that basically our whole country in a sense had to go on lockdown, but let alone here in the islands, we're so isolated that we kind of had this notion in our head that, oh yeah, it couldn't reach us, like we're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. But I think as the cases started rising, everybody started to realize that it was real. And my immediate concerns were definitely all the students who are not as fortunate as me and some of my other peers who go home to something that is very safe for them. And it's hard to hear that a lot of times school is an escape for people, especially where I live. So that was my first concern. And then just besides that, a lot of how are children going to eat who don't get to eat? And then school is like where they eat. And then their technology, that's a really big one. So it was a lot about the students who are not as fortunate as a lot of us.
Thanks so much, Jade. Yeah, Persephone would love to hear from you.
So for me, when I heard that school was shutting down, I mean, like, we're gonna go remote, I kind of was scared at first, but then I tried to think of things positive because otherwise I'll shut down. So, and plus I'm graduating. I was graduating at the time, and I was thinking like, wait, how's that gonna work? I really wanted my family to see me. That's like one thing I've waited my whole life, is to have my family be at this gathering and get to see me walk across the stage. So I was like really thinking of my family, and I was scared, and I was already having trouble. I mean, like, trying to process the fact I was graduating, and it was just, I was really stressed out. But I thought of it in a way of, well, that's my time, because I always wanted to be home with my family and be able to spend time with my family. So I thought, oh, I can go home and just finish school there and be around my family and make sure, you know, we were doing what we could to be safe and keeping others safe. And that was my first thing of how are the preventions gonna go. That's the first thought that popped in my head, prevention. And I was really nervous to see how that was gonna work, and especially for people who depend on IHS a lot. I mean, they barely have any resources there, and I was just scared for my community and the Native students that were on campus away from home. Like, it was a lot to process, but yeah, those are my first thoughts.
Thank you so much for sharing, Persephone. For everyone on the call who's not familiar, IHS stands for Indian Health Service. And I'm going to pop it over to my colleague, Lindsay, who has the next question. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Chelsea. Hi, panelists. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. We are all so excited to hear from you. Like Chelsea said, my name is Lindsay Early, and I was a core member in Lawton, Oklahoma, which is my home community. I'm a member of the Comanche Nation, and now I live in Portland, Oregon. I work for the National Indian Child Welfare Association. So the question that I wanted to ask our panelists is, what do you miss most about school, and what concerns do you have for your friends and classmates? So I'm particularly looking to hear from Jade, Harrison, and Brittany.
What worried me the most is with my friends is their mental health as well. Because some of my friends live out in the reservation out in Arizona, and they don't have internet access, or sometimes they don't have phones, so it's really difficult to get in touch with them and to make sure that they are okay and doing fine and stuff like that. I really miss speaking to them, face-to-face contact wise, and just seeing them being happy and stuff like that, and just sharing what we did over the summer, or what we did over the weekend and stuff like that, and what our future plan is. It's just that really connection with that in-person interaction with one another, because it really feels like you're talking to somebody instead of talking to somebody through a screen and stuff like that. And just to really just socialize around with my friends, and that's what I really miss so much. And as well with the with the difficulty of like getting in touch with them on the reservation with no internet access. And I worried some of them how they get water, or sometimes even some of my friends don't even have electricity at home. So that's what worries me most. So that's what really brings concerns. But that's really what I really miss and what I'm really concerned about them.
Thank you for sharing, Harrison. Bella, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, like Harrison just said, I was really, well, the moment I found out was on a Wednesday, I believe, and middle of the week. We were about halfway through the semester and all the news just hit us at once. And then about a day later, our principal issued a big statement to all the students on campus that we were going to have to call off the rest of the school year and switch it to online. And so hearing that news like a day later was really hectic and really chaotic for everybody, because that meant that students who like me who live out of state had to contact our families to let them know what was happening. And that it meant just packing up everything that we have and traveling back home with little to no understanding of like how the rest of the year is going to carry out. And it was a really confusing time. It was really stressful. But one of my main concerns was, like Harrison just said, about my friends too, who didn't have the best access to internet to like carry out the rest of the school year online, and lack of resources, and the fear of like, what if something happened? What if one of them got sick? And I would miss hanging out with them too. And really just like the whole aspect of being at school and not really being able to learn super well, like over the computer and stuff, and having to switch gears just like on a dime like that. It was really confusing, but that's kind of how it was for me.
Thank you. And Geronimo, would you be, or I'm sorry, with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Lily, for the next question.
Thank you, Lindsay. Hi, everybody. So glad to be hearing from all of you. My name is Lily True. I am a member of the AANHPI Advisory Council here at Teach America. I have a question that I'd like to pose specifically to Bella, Persephone, and Geronimo. Would love to hear a little bit more about what were some of the procedures, such as curfews, checkpoints, and closures that were going on in your community, and why were they necessary, and if you thought they were effective.
Sure thing. Here in the city, there are some stores, well, most stores actually, who are doing the mask up policy, and anytime that you have to enter a store, you have to wear your mask, and there's social distancing laws, well, not laws, but rules in place in order to protect people. And some stores are doing a maximum person capacity thing where they only let a certain amount of people into the store at one point. And I really agree with them, and I think that they're doing a good job. But some people, even like when you get into the store, you can see some people who aren't wearing a mask and aren't like staying away from people. And so that's a little bit concerning, but for the most part, that's how we in the city have been dealing with it.
Great, thank you. Persephone, would you like to share a little bit on that?
Yeah, so my Sisseton didn't really have any checkpoints or lockdowns, but they did the best they could by telling people to, their first main statement was the elders. That this virus is going to take our elders. How can we protect our elders? That was the first statement that came out from the tribe. And given that our tribe's checkerboard, for those of you like unfamiliar with that term, checkerboard is just like during the period of when they're taking land from Indian owned territory. I'm sorry if I only know little bits and pieces how it goes, just because I live in a community that's like, it goes non-native, native, non-native, native. So they can't really have a checkpoint, but for the community, the native, we have 7 districts, and there was an outbreak in Tokanua. So the council representative of Tokunawa issued a checkpoint, and no one could go in or out because they're trying to keep that community safe and like stop the outbreak that happened there. So they're doing things like that, and also shutting down the tribe, and anything tribal owned was shut down, and they give out free masks. That's all they could do for preventative care or prevention. So, and we're kind of still going through that right now. Nothing's really open. The tribe opened back up, but then they recently just opened back up actually. And we had a community powwow last week. It was just open for the community, just to, I feel like just to bring everyone into, like uplift everyone, because we were all everyone was in their homes. Not many people went. But they made it clear that it was just for the community, social distancing, masks. So I thought that was kind of helpful to uplift this, the, like, I guess sadness or whatever of what the virus has brought. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. Geronimo, did you have anything from your community you'd like to share?
Yeah, so just like these two shared, we had most of these regulations and rules that were set into place, mostly because we are still the highest rate of COVID cases and deaths and such on the Diné reservation. We've had checkpoints, we've had curfews, we've had social distancing bylaws put into place for not only public safety, but like in your own homes as well, because there's so many people that still had to go to work who were first responders and etc. And so like here at my house, my dad goes to work and he works in the medical field too. So we had to take extra precaution into understanding what this COVID is and how we can prevent ourselves from getting it, even though we have someone who's living in my house who's a first responder essentially. And he's not a first responder. I'm sorry, he's an essential worker. He works for bioplasma laboratories, and so medical field. And so it's very important that these things were set into place because of, like, as they shared, many people weren't following these protocols that were set into place for our own safety. Many people weren't wearing masks. Many people weren't understanding why we had these things in place. And so it did call a ripple effect. It did cause a ripple effect because so many people weren't understanding why we had to have these things. But every day I'm always encouraging people to remember that these are set in place for an extra reason. And were they effective? Somewhat, for those who've actually learned and understand why these were in place. But I think now it's taking full effect of people understanding why these are the way they are. But personally, I didn't understand the lockdown issue that was placed. Not the lockdown issue, I'm sorry, the curfew issue, because I have relatives who are Diné people and they live on the reservation further than I do. I live like by a border town that's called Gallup, New Mexico, and Gallup is not that far away from me. It's just like right there, like literally right there. And so I had to think in such a manner where I'm just like, I have the town right there where I can go and get water or something that I needed to eat. My relatives have to travel hours upon hours, spending gas, spending money on things that they need to get. And they only have a short period of time to get those things. And social distancing was helpful, but at the same time, it was like only a certain amount of people could go into the store. And so there was lines upon lines of people. And so many of them couldn't get the service that they needed to get. And that was very heartbreaking. But in the end, it's like it helps, but it doesn't help.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. That's really insightful, just kind of based off geography and where you are and the limitations. I'm actually curious to hear from Jay too on this topic, just being in Hawaii and with tourism and with just it being so different on an island. Would you mind sharing a little bit about what you experienced and whether you thought it was effective?
Yeah, so I feel like in Hawaii, we have a bit different situations from Native American reservations. And I am fortunate for that, but at the same time, our economy just had a complete crash. We have the biggest unemployment rate because of tourism. And we've depended on mainstream media to mediaize our culture instead of actually like pay attention to it. So it was an eye-opener. And I think that right now the government as a whole is rethinking how they portray us as people to the outside world, I would say. Thankfully enough, both my parents are essential workers. My mom works at a Hawaiian immersion school, so it's the same school, but it's completely immersed in Hawaiian language. So she had to reach out to a lot of her students who go there. So yeah, economically, it was really, really bad because of how much we depend on tourism. And if anything, I think it was sad to see a lot of some of the people that I know become unemployed. But at the same time, I feel like it was bound to happen because we can't just rely on other people to support our culture and other people to think that of our culture in a fantasized way. So I think everything happens for a reason. So same protocols basically, but economically and with the government, it was a really big eye opener.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much to all of you for sharing it, sharing your stories and what's happening in your communities. I am going to pass it on next to Amina. I believe Amina has the next question.
Everybody, my name is Amina, and before I introduce myself, I just have to say how excited I am for all the panelists that are here. So great. I couldn't wait to hear from you all when I saw the flyers, saw all your pictures and where you've gone to school, where you're going. Oh my God, so excited. And I was also just amazed, I guess, that you were going to make time for us and answer our questions. I'm really thankful for all of you. I think you're amazing scholars, and I can just tell all the things you've been talking about. I'm just so amazed and so happy for all the things that you are accomplishing, and right where you're at, and that's the most important thing. So thank you so much, and I just want to give everybody hugs, but we can't do that. I can do it virtually, so you know, those are hugs. And to see your face, just delighted to see you guys here today. Thank you so much. So, my name is Amina. I'm living in McAllen, Texas. I'm Danae. I went to school on the Navajo Reservation, graduated from Kinley High School, for those of you who know that area. I'm very proud to be a Wildcat. And I'm going to ask you a question, and this question is going to go out to Dave, Bella, and Brittany, if you have, but everybody else wants to jump in, May as well. So here's the question. This is probably a question right up my lane, because this is what I constantly think about when I was thinking about maybe family back home on the Navajo Reservation, and all of our Native youth who are in maybe a lot more rural areas in terms of where they're getting their education. This is what concerned me the most. So maybe you can give us some insight as well in a personal light to this. The question is, how were education services and resources provided for you?
For most of us, I just previously said I'm a sophomore at Fort Lewis College, and that's located in Durango, Colorado. And the way they went about doing that is they switched our curriculum online to Canvas. And it was a website and a platform that I hadn't really had much experience with before. But that's kind of how the way that they switched things up, and how some of the professors would pre-record their lecture videos and they would upload them to the site. And some of their grading policies changed up a little bit. And but yeah, that's kind of how they switched it. But I personally had a few years of experience somewhat in that manner, because for the past 2 years in my high school career, I transferred from Harding Charter Prep to an online platform called Epic. And so I had a little bit of experience doing online schooling in that manner, but at the same time, not on that same platform. So I kind of like had to relearn things a little bit and on very quickly too. So it was, that's kind of how it was.
Thank you, Brittany. How about you, Bella? You're on the call? No? Jade?
That was me.
I'm sorry, Jade? Sorry. How about you, Jade? Oh, she's
Sorry,
frozen.
I couldn't hear.
Okay.
Okay. So a lot of my school personally, a lot of the children that go there don't have access to technology, say like a computer, which is already hard in itself because even when we were at school, a lot of our work is online, whether it be like in Google Classroom or just our assignments in general. But when you find out that everything, we didn't even have time to really process it. It was all just like the next day, you can't come anymore. But our school did a Chromebook pickup. So if you needed a Chromebook, then you could just come and pick it up. But then there's also the issue, like, what if you don't have internet? So it didn't really help anybody with it. But this year we heard plans that they plan on giving out like hotspot devices. So if you don't have internet, then you have that. But it didn't happen this previous year. But I'm part of student government, so we got all the details. So it sounds like every student is going to be given the tools, but I think mentally it's going to be a really big transition because it's hard to do it online. So, but we did have a lot of good.
Thank you, Jade. Anybody else want to jump in? Geronimo or Harrison, real quick?
Yeah, it's very nice that some of you got like really big help with your academic achievements, but unfortunately, I can't say I had the same kind of experience after the pandemic hit. We did move on to online classes, and I've experienced online classes for like one semester during the summer. It was like a quick rendition of the course, but my teacher, one of my teachers was actually like really helpful during this pandemic of the spring semester. He was giving Zoom lessons, so we would go on Zoom like right now, and he would give lessons and ask if we had any questions. And this was for biology, both lecture and lab, and so that was really helpful. But it was a different story from other teachers that I had, like chemistry and English and Native American studies. So they would just issue us like emails. They would issue us paperwork over through email. Even if some of us could access faxing, that's the way we would get our work. And then they would just assign book pages that we'd have to read. And then that was it from there. We just turned in what we had. And so I come from a program from my school that's called TRIO. And TRIO is like an academic source of way to get help with your teaching skills, your learning skills, as well as like getting involved with school stuff. And so that was really helpful to me. And so getting that taken away and not having that community of support, not just mentally or emotionally, it was also academically supporting me. And so losing that kind of affected my learning ability throughout the start of the pandemic. And as well as ARC, I'm also part of ARC, and ARC is like a program for people who have a disability of learning or also have a physical disability. So my accommodations were still intact, but it was just like a little hazy for me because I was like waiting for emails, and then I got emails, and then I had to read all the emails, and then I had to do work, and then I had to turn in what I got. But as most of us are expressing, not all of us had a computer, not all of us had Wi-Fi to use, and so that was for me too. using my phone right now to talk to you guys. I don't have a laptop or a computer. And so that was a very difficult struggle for me, was just to like try to download apps that could help me send off my homework. At one point, I did have to meet one of my professors in person with mask, of course, 6 feet apart, and give them my work. And that was really helpful, honestly, because I was like, how am I going to get this to them? I need it graded. But thankfully, he was able to go out of his own way to help his students, and that was really helpful. And I'm very grateful for that teacher. But I don't know, a little work with our academic skills of college would be really nice, as well as high school students. I know that the two of my younger siblings who were in school had difficulties with adapting to doing and not doing homework. So
Thank you. That's amazing. That's the issue for so many, am I right? I mean, you're voicing something that so many are experiencing all over the country. Definitely, yes. Well, I want to thank you all for answering the question, and I'm really thankful for you all, and I'm really thankful that there were some teachers that you all can specifically think about that during this time were probably super helpful to you, and I'm warmed my heart to know that there were teachers out there that were going the extra mile for you all, because in the end, that's what it takes. And I wish they were all doing it, or I wish that we had more like that. And I know that they're out there, and so I'm really great to hear that you had some support. And I also just want to say that I'm really thankful for all of you and your resilience through all of this. Kind of, in a lot of ways, having the rug taken out from under you, am I right? And how it affected you all in such different ways. And for you to acknowledge and know that it also affected family and classmates in so many different ways, and that you understand that. And so I hope that as you continue your journey in education, that those will always be on the forefront of your mind, and kind of just helping your community and helping your classmates and helping your family, which I know it will. I don't have to tell you all that, but I'm really thankful for all of you. Thank you so much. Love you. And now I'm going to ask Kristen, if you want to get on from here, please.
Magandang gabi sa lahat. Ako si Kristen Macapagal. Good evening, everyone. And just echoing Amina, really grateful for all of you making the time to share your perspectives with us. And it's just been like really great to be able to hear all of you reflecting. And like, I used to live in Navajo, New Mexico and Gallup, New Mexico for about 8 years. And, you know, when I hear you talking about everything that's happening in the communities, it's just really powerful. And so I'm really appreciative that you all are sharing. I work on with the Rural School Leadership Academy on the School and Systems Leadership team at Teach for America. And so I've got some school-based questions for you that I know that a lot of our school leaders would love to hear your perspective on. And so I'll start with Jade, Harrison, and Bella for this question. And if we have time, then we can potentially open it up to others. But like, first is just, you know, are you ready to go back to school? And do you think school should be fully open for the fall? And then the second, and this is the question we'd just really love to hear each of your perspectives on, is like, if you were in a school leader's shoes, so if you were in a position of determining the next steps for opening schools, what would you recommend, or what advice would you give?
So definitely, yeah. If I'm ready, I didn't do that well online. Definitely, I will say, like, it was so hard. It was so hard doing that because for me personally, I thrived off of school and like getting involved with government and like the clubs and stuff. So for me, that was very hard. But then for my peers, when they found out they didn't have to go to school, it was like they've like grown so much and they got to really focus on themselves. But I do think everybody's different. So I'm personally ready to get back to school. But my school is actually doing a trial week. So we're doing it like day one. If your last name is A to KA, then you're going on that day. Day two, KE to Z. And they're only going once a week, and it's a half day just to try it. But there's like a lot of questions, like what if a teacher gets infected? Then her students are gonna have to quarantine, but then they went to other classes, and then the whole school is just going to have to shut down, and it puts a lot of people in danger. And especially now in Hawaii, the cases have been super high lately. It's been a really big spike. So I think we all have to see how it goes. We have about 3 more weeks. So I think if in the next week and in the next few days, if it goes down, I would say that we could start going back periodically. But if it's still at the numbers right now, I would not do it just to stay safe, because there's too many risks involved, and everybody has to, we pass each other in the halls and everything. It's a lot of questions. So I would say I'm ready, and I think it all just depends on how everything is going.
For me, it was funny, I just had this conversation with my grandma a couple of days ago, and I was telling her the news that my school had issued a statement saying that they are going to allow students to return in the fall. And I asked her how she felt about that, and she was super hesitant, and she didn't think it was a very good idea. And I agree with her too, but at the same time, for me, it's like a lot of mixed emotions going along. Like I had just mentioned that I really do miss my friends, and I miss my life up there, and how, like, since that was my first year, I was just starting to get into the hang of things, and how I was just starting to like get into the flow, and all of that stuff up there that I miss so much. But at the same time, I have such a high concern for keeping everybody safe and making sure that the elders are safe, and that the young people are safe as well too, and how we really need to look after everybody and just make sure that things are all right. But like Jay just said, my school is kind of doing a similar thing, where how they're moving people in, like with the first letter of your last name, and they're doing it in shifts to where it's not going to be like everybody flocking in at just one time, and that they're going to bring people in sections almost. But the way we're doing it is that we're going to be cutting off around fall break, and then moving back to online and taking our finals through there. So I do have a lot of mixed emotions about how I feel like that's going to go. And they are doing social distancing policies and masks and all that. But at the same time, with the numbers that we're seeing right now, I still have a little bit of doubt if it's really a good idea or not, because at the end of the day, safety is the main concern for everybody. And education always has second options and stuff. We can always continue to do it online. But at the same time, not everybody has access to do it as easier as some other people do. So it's a lot of mixed emotions for me.
Yeah, would love to hear from both of you before we move on to Harrison, just like the second part of the question, which was, if you were the person who was making the call, what would you do?
Well, I am ready to go back to school. But like in my school for college, they're doing, like, a little bit of people are going to classes, and a little bit of people are staying online through the whole year of their semester. And a little people are switching back and forth. They're going to classes and doing online classes at the same time, which is kind of confusing. But if I was a person in charge to make the call, I unfortunately would not let students go back to school, because, well, in Arizona, there's high cases. Like, we're receiving like 5,000 cases per day, which is really concerning, and especially to keep school closed. But if I would have, I would not let the students go back to school, but as well to see cases like go lower and lower and lower, by rapid testing, to like have students and teachers be tested and everybody be tested. And as well that there should be like they should improve the testing to make it like where you'll get your results within like 5 to probably 20 minutes instead of like within a week. That's what I would do, but I would also keep the school closed for the safety of the children and the teachers, and as well for our elders, and to have like low cases, and to have online classes, especially for the reservations, like Jade was saying. to give people hotspot devices and computers so they can work online and stay connected with their friends virtually at least and stay in touch across the reservation in Arizona. And that would be like a good idea as well. And that's what I would do if I was a person in charge of this, process. So, yeah.
Love that. Thank you. And then for for Jade and for Bella, was there any advice that you would give to school leaders or folks who are having to make those tough calls right now?
I agree too. I still think it's a little bit too early to allow people to come back on campus just with the knowledge of the numbers that we're seeing right now. I still feel like it's, no matter how much social distancing and no matter how safe we try to be, it's inevitable that the COVID will continue to circulate around campus and affect more people. And I think it's only like a matter of time until like one of the students contracts it or tests positive, and then the only way to go from there is to spread around to other people. So that's how I feel about it. And I think that it's still a little bit too early to start moving back in, but that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially here in my community, a lot of students live with their grandparents and elders, and they go back home to them. Elders are sadly the most at-risk people, and if they contract it, which is very easy for a lot of elderly people to contract it, it's our death toll is sadly probably most likely going to go up. And it's not like our government should be shocked if there is a big surge in cases. You truthfully cannot be shocked. And when you put children and elders at risk, that's probably the worst group of people you could put at risk. Of course, everyone's lives, matter equally, but yeah, it's just an issue with a lot of students living with elderly people, their grandfathers or grandmas. And you can't change that. So I think it's always just about what's best for not only the students, but you have to think that they have lives too. And their health affects their grandparents' health, and even with medical bills, it's a lot. It connects to all different types of issues.
I really appreciate all of you sharing your perspectives on this incredibly hard question. And sorry to spring that on you. I know you're not actually in the position to make that call, but I think it's critically important for people who are making those decisions to be able to hear from the people who are most directly affected as students and teachers. And one of the things I really appreciate hearing from all of you is the collective nature of this problem, is that it's not just a matter of, like a single student or a single teacher's safety. Like everybody is involved, and this affects truly everyone in families and multi-generational households. So thank you all so much. And with that, I will pass it to Chelsea for the next question.
Yes. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness to that, to your responses as well. Such a weird time to be alive, and even people who are in a position to have some impact on reopenings are confused, and it can feel really weird sometimes to be put in this position of impacting public health. I wanted to ask our participants, our panelists, looking into the future, this may or may not be the last time that we face a pandemic like this. So with that in mind, are there any lessons you've learned that you would apply over the next 18 months so that we are better prepared the next time something like this happens? I'd love to hear from Persephone, Harrison.
The most lesson that I learned and to give off to educationals is to stay connected with your students, because connection with your students is very mandated immediately. and as well to listen to health professionals as well. Some politicians do think they know everything when they don't. So health professionals is one of the key majors to listen to, and to like listen what guidelines they have for students and is the population in general, to protect one another and to protect ourselves and protect other people. Is that connection is one of the key issue is here, especially in the reservation when people don't have internet access. And to just stay patient and just always keep a healthy mindset and just stay updated with what's going on. And well, sometimes don't always listen to the news, just like be to yourself and read books and stuff like that. And as well, just be connected to your inner self with your spirit and with your elders and with your cultural indigenous wise. That's like what I would give to people. And yeah, it's just connection is the key here, especially for teachers and school boards that should listen, is to make sure that students are connected with their teachers and students are connected with their friends. So yeah.
One thing that I would probably do is try to reach the younger generation of the youth, probably middle school on up, because I noticed from like the tribal statements and just in general they were just they don't really, I think like they think because they're young and whatever, I don't know what goes through their mind, but we had a lot of youth on our reservation just cruising around, kind of just doing whatever. And so our tribe had to make a decision. We had to put out a curfew. If your kids are out past curfew, you're going to get a fine. And then hearing some elders speak out too about it. On our reservation, one of them, elderly woman, she just kind of talked about how when she was younger, I think it was during the TB crisis, she said that she remembers her grandma taking them into the back room and putting them under a blanket and making it ventilation under there, or not ventilation, like steam, so they can breathe. And she said that's love. And if I have one thing to say, is just take it serious, listen to your elders, because we had a lot of young people really not taking it serious, and it was kind of scary. So I feel like just trying to talk more to them, because we know as well, some adults, we know that it's something that should be taken serious if it's put out in the news and stuff, but sometimes the youth don't really watch the news. So probably just trying to speak to them from maybe social media platform, or to make them take it serious. That's what I've learned, and what I would probably do in the next pandemic, go straight to the youth and then on up.
Thank you so much. I'll pass it to Lindsay.
Thank you so much. This question is specifically for Geronimo, Bella, or Harrison. What action steps are we taking for people who don't have a voice? So for those relatives who don't have access to water, food, life necessities, and essentials, are you directly involved, or do you have stories to share with us of people making a difference in your community?
Yes, I think having a voice for people who don't have a voice themselves, or who can't get their voice heard, is very important, especially as someone who's calling themselves a Diné individual. We always look out for each other as Diné people and Indigenous people as well. Is very important to us. It's the importance of family and relatives. How am I taking these steps of making sure they're okay, but I'm also okay? How am I taking these steps to be heard for them, as well as like the rest of the community? And some of the ways that we are doing this as Diné people is using our social media platforms. I know so many small businesses that are using their businesses and creating these beautiful things to sell, and making sure that they get their profits in order so that they can donate those profits to an organization that will eventually help the community in a whole. I personally been making so many masks for people, if I can just get it. Right here, I'm making so many masks for all my relatives, from my family, for distant relatives and people in general. And I think this is a positive action that we all need to take as Indigenous people, returning back to our roots and remembering is the essential way of life, and remembering our relatives in that kind of manner is to, are you okay? Are you doing fine? What do you need? And if they don't have that, how are we going to supply that? Do we go to the council of our Indigenous sovereignty government? Are we going to use our platforms as Indigenous people on social media and make videos talking about the situations that are happening? Are we going to be contacting state officials to help us make funds for the Diné people or other peoples of different reservations? And so that's kind of what I've been seeing a lot lately with many other Indigenous people who are youth, and they are taking that initiative step to making sure that their whole community is being taken care of. But mostly it's small businesses like myself, like I make clothes and everything. And recently I got a bunch of new orders for masks. So hopefully I can start also getting in tune with taking those, the money that I earned and putting it into an organization that can potentially help not just my family, but people who are in like the deep reservation of the Diné people.
Thank you, Geronimo. And some of our guests on the Zoom group chat are now asking if you do have a link to share where you sell those, please feel free to just drop that down in the chat box so we can support you as well. Okay, so Bella or Harrison, what action steps are we taking for folks who don't have a voice?
Something that I've seen myself personally is my auntie Kate Zolteska. She is sewing masks a lot and donating them to Navajo Nation is what I've heard, and also just to any people who are in need of it. And like Geronimo just said, I've been seeing a lot of Indigenous small businesses really using their platform and the supplies and the tools that they have at their and been donating them to people in communities who need it, such as masks and things along those lines. And so that's kind of what I've been seeing, and seeing the profits going to affected communities. And so, yeah.
Thank you.
I have been listening to a lot of stories from many people around the reservations about how they're dealing with the, curfew in the Navajo Nation, and as well, they don't have food or running water. Is that I am, talking to some chapter houses and stuff like that, but normally I can't get involved with chapter houses due to like the, pandemic, but I am giving them advices and stuff like that to what to do for the people that are in deep in the reservation. And as well, I love that I saw on social media posts of people, walking up to people's doors and dropping food off for them and dropping off water. And as well with the Navajo president, he and some other groups made like a little sink thingy that you just pour water in and it pours water out so people can wash their hands, because, hand washing is the major issue that we have in the Navajo Nations to keep ourselves clean from this virus and to just protect ourselves from it. That's what I've been really seeing a lot of people do, is to donating their food and money to like organizations that are helping the Navajo Nation out, and as well as other tribal communities out as well. I have personally been donating food and money to those chapter houses in the Naho Nation so they can get the supplies and food that they need. My cousin is also making masks. She's donating them to, as well, the chapter houses and stuff like that, and for our relatives. So that's what I've been seeing a lot. And to hear the voices of people, to raise them, is to listen to their story and act into it quickly so they can get the potential needs that, they need with food and water and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Well, thank you all for sharing what you are doing to amplify those voices. It's been wonderful to hear from all of you. After this, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Lily for the last question.
Thank you, Lindsay. I am going to echo what everyone has said. You guys have been so thoughtful, and it's been so powerful to hear your stories, and we definitely really appreciated you sharing. I think as I'm thinking about all the things you guys have shared with us tonight around how you're taking care of your communities, you are taking care of your elders, you are reaching out to one another, and you are also having to deal with, being a student and a scholar during these really difficult times. I'd love to know two things, and this is a question to everyone, so you guys can start thinking about it now. So it's a two-part question. The first part of this final question is, what are you doing to take care of yourselves? What are the self-care techniques or things you're doing to care for yourselves and to protect yourself? And then the second part of the question is, what advice would you have for others who may be in a similar boat as you, and kind of what would you share with them in terms of how to handle these unusual times? So those are the two-part questions. What are you doing for self-care, and what advice do you have for others? So we'd love to hear from all of you on this. I think we will start with Jade, if that's okay.
Thank you. So for self-care, I definitely got to, well, I mean, my parents have been very persistent about like doing chores and stuff, so I definitely done a lot of work around the house, especially with, I started doing more gardening stuff and just started really discovering more things and reading a lot and understanding the world's political issues right now, especially within the Native American culture in itself, because I feel like I have so much more to learn within my own culture. But I do think that the indigenous people of America have so much more to offer than what the media portrays them to be, especially within reservations. I think you see a lot of people kind of, they look at it very negatively, but I think that it's a very beautiful thing, and within all indigenous cultures. And what I would say, definitely I would tell other people and just learn is that, especially here in Hawaii, that we need to start getting back to how our indigenous people used to be, which is number one, stop depending on other outer people to provide us with food. 90% of our food is shipped in from out of state. And for me, and especially all indigenous cultures, we are indigenous, and what makes it special is that we thrived off the land and that we are one with the land. And I think that we've kind of become a slave to the westernized way of depending on them to provide for us, when in reality, indigenous cultures were thrived off of the land that they were given. And we live in Hawaii, and that is the most agriculturally developed place here, but yet nobody ever wants to talk about growing native plants or decreasing the amount of food we ship in. And I think that once we become more self-sufficient as a culture and as a people, that's going to change everything, to tourism, economics, and all that. Not even like growing your own food, just supporting local. So I think going back to the real basics and the simplicity of indigenous culture in itself would make just a huge turnaround. So not becoming a slave to westernized ways or to colonized practices, but becoming indigenous again. So yeah.
I really love what you said, Jade. It's very important that we as Indigenous people start looking at our lives as decolonizing them. right here is like a prime example of decolonizing. This is a rug made by my great-great-grandma, who was unfortunately whitewashed to the point where she thought it was okay to culture appropriate her own culture of weaving and become a death tone to the point that these were essentially like things that hurt our people and made them weak in the sense that they had no backbone. And so this is my constant reminder that we need to start decolonizing ourselves. And the way to do that is to continue on the tradition, but making it in our own style and sense, and the self-expression of balance. And that is exactly what I'm doing during my pandemic out here, is reconnecting with my culture, learning and understanding my culture. I'm constantly asking my mom and dad, what does this word mean? How do I say this? And it's all very beautiful. And so it goes back to my teachings as a Diné person. We as Diné people, we like to understand our life as a balance. And it's crazy because in our origin stories, it's actually, it was actually said that sickness is always going to be around as a pandemic. And so this is kind of like, it's kind of like weird to say that, but it's what was really said, that's passed on from our elders, is that like there's always going to be sickness in this world because the twin arrows didn't kill them. That's one of our teachings as Diné people, is that there's always going to be a sickness around to keep us in check. And I think that's what it's doing right now, is reminding us like, you're Diné, you need to get on with life the way you're supposed to. And so for me, it's like creating masks, remembering my cat with people, taking my art skills and putting them into good use, whether that's weaving, creating clothes, creating masks. And it's very helpful. It's very helpful to get back to your indigenous ways, even like with many things going on with the world, not even the pandemic itself. It's like Black Lives Matter, which is I'm very involved right now because of TikTok. I don't know if y'all know what that is, but like it's like crazy, and like we're talking about it. And so a lot of these things are colliding together in a good way, but in a bad way. But it's important to remember who you are as an indigenous person, like we said, and decolonize yourself and relearn the things that you had forgotten and use that as a way of overcoming this pandemic.
What I have been doing for self-care is reading a lot. I hardly ever go into town. The only time I go into town is when I need groceries, or is when my other relatives need groceries. I'll get groceries for them. But yeah, like what Geronimo said, I just been reconnecting with my culture, with my people on the Navajo Nation, and just figuring out who I am as a Diné and what it means and what it stands for, and how I can help my Diné people, how to raise their voices up and to make sure that they're doing fine and that they're doing okay. And as well to learn the valuable lessons of our teachings from our elders about our Navajo culture. I have been learning to speak my Navajo language. There's even books given to us from our school in elementary, and there's a Navajo site where it's like written out in Navajo. So that's what I'm learning to do, is reading in Navajo as well. And that's all I've been doing for my self-care. And what I give to other people is to learn your old roots. Like Jade and Germano said, like decolonize yourself and just connect to your old roots and connect to your elders, and to just find who you really were before colonization actually happened. So that's what, that's really inspiring. And that's what we all need to do as an Indigenous, is to remember who we were. And that's what I've been doing for self-care. And always remember, wash your hands. If you're not accessible to sink and soap, use hand sanitizer, and always wear your mask, not only to protect yourself, but to protect others around you, to show that you respect them and that they respect you as well. Yeah.
I really, really, really love and agree with everything that everybody else has said about decolonizing, and I'm going to push that further and say indigenizing as well, and really going back to our old ways and reclaiming who we are as Indigenous people. And this means, like Jade said, food sovereignty and growing our old foods and remaining, learning our languages and how to create our own regalia and all these things too. But going back to the question, what I've been doing for self-care is I run a small business called Ayukli Designs, and I sell ribbon skirts and do beadwork too, and that for me has really helped me a lot because it's an outlet for me and I really enjoy doing it. And beading and sewing for me is medicine, and it's helping me heal a lot, and it's just really fun for me to do too. And so it's just a really good outlet for me, and it's been helping me stay busy and remember and stay connected at the same time. And my advice for everybody too, just like everybody else has said, is remember who you are as Indigenous people. Like I said before, learn your ways, stay connected, and learn your languages, practice food sovereignty, and stay connected.
Gee, I really like what you guys all said. That's kind of the self-care I've been doing was connecting back to my roots as well. I haven't done this in years. I went teepsida picking. You just go on the prairie. It translates to prairie onion. But anyway, I went teepsida picking. I went just trying to reconnect and do some old traditions that I've never done in a while. Ever since this was the 4th year. I'm barely out of mourning, and when my kushi passed away, she kind of took a lot with her, and so it was really good just to finally get out there again and start to really, I don't know, connect back to my roots. And I haven't spoke my language since I went to college, and just coming back home and really wanting to start to speak my language. And I feel like I failed my grandma a lot because she was a first language Dakota speaker, and she really brought those old Dakota words back. And I feel like she's really proud that I'm finally coming back and able to really reclaim who I am as a Dakota woman. And yeah, and that's basically what I've been doing. And also too, like how I'm giving back. I mentor, I did Upper Bound. It just ended today. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Upper Bound, but I was able to mentor five kids over the summer. And I kind of, what are you guys doing to, keep yourself busy, or what are you doing to, like making sure you're healthy and safe during this time. And it was really nice just to talk and communicate and see what younger people are doing, and just seeing what other people are doing in their communities. But yeah, really thank you all for sharing with me and letting me be in this space. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We have a few minutes left. Suprita, do we have any questions from our attendees on the call?
A lot of we could take questions now if folks want to pop them in the chat, but a lot of the questions have been if y'all can access the chat to drop in your business accounts, your art, your links to your work, your portfolios. Folks have been asking about that just to support y'all and uplift y'all's work. And then some of the let me see if there were other questions. And if there were any organizations that you want us to support too and lift up in this moment that you are lifting up, to also share those with us as well, so we can also lift them up for you and with you.
I just want to say what a great job you all did. It was so enlightening, your perspective, your experience, just the wisdom and the takeaways from what you shared tonight was just truly inspiring. And we want you to, continue to do what you're doing, stay safe, and stay connected to one another. This is a great opportunity to build your network with one another. I hope you can come out of this call, staying connected, developing some good relationships and friendships out of this. We so appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time tonight. Thank you everybody for being on the call. We have a recording of this, and hopefully we'll get it uploaded and we can share it out to you too. So you can archive that and have that for your records and for your participation in it. Thank you all once again. And with that, we'll wish everybody a good night and safe travels and safe